Hello, welcome to Endurance FM. My name is Graham Brown. We are all about the entrepreneurs of endurance. Today, I'm joined by a performance coach and endurance athlete whose competitive accomplishments include everything from being the youngest female to complete Badwater ultramarathon to the first mountain bike crossing of the Atacama Desert in Chile. Her day job includes being an endurance sports coach, owning and running a dedicated indoor cycling facility, and if that's not enough, being a race director. And if that's not enough, being a full-time mom. She's just back from a 100-miler in Chile. It's Jen Segger, everybody. She's a real badass. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Graham, for having me.
And guess what? We're live on Facebook. So if anybody has any questions, feedbacks, comments, just fire away. You know what to do in the comment section on Facebook. We'll also be on YouTube and on iTunes. Jen, it's great to have you on the show. I was a little bit nervous at the beginning just because of all your accomplishments. It just seems like you are a real badass when it comes to adventure and completing some of the toughest races in the world. We'll talk about those in a minute. But let's start where you are in the world right here, right now. Tell us a little bit about where Jen Segger is today.
Well, firstly, thanks, Graham, for that kind introduction. It's always interesting to hear all those things sort of said about you. But no, just trying to live life to the fullest here. It's short, right? When you really look at it, the days and years are flying by. So right now, yes, in my office, computer in front of me, working through programs for various athletes. They keep me on my toes every single day. And I'm just staring out my window here in Squamish, looking at the mountains, and we've still got a little bit of snow on them. It's a super windy day, and I was just back in from a mega 6-hour ride in some crazy wind, so I'm a little exhausted and trying to pound back some espresso and get my calories in here so I can power through the rest of the afternoon.
Is that a typical day for you? 6-hour ride, espresso, 2 hours of work? How does it work out for you? Is there a typical day?
I don't think I have a typical day at all, but most days, yes, do involve training. Although, I really hate to use the word training on that because what I do, out there in my bike, running, whatever, like that's just my playground. It's what I enjoy to do. So I actually just don't even see this training. It's a part of what you do every day. But the drinking coffee, absolutely. I'm a huge coffee fan. I always tell everyone I can function without it just fine, but the truth is I really enjoy it. I get up excited for my coffee in the morning.
Exactly.
Right?
It's one of those things. I mean, I never used to drink coffee, but then I got into cycling and it was like, well, you just have to drink coffee now. You can't do cycling without coffee. So it's you get drawn into that world, right?
You do. And I plan my road trips. I plan my biking, my training around where's my coffee, when's my next espresso going to be, and where can I stop along the way, right?
It's just an excuse. So where was your trip today? You did 6 hours. Was that out on the road or you did mountain bike?
This was road. I headed up north actually to the Whistler Olympic Park and then on to Whistler itself. So I had some good hills and then coming home, which is typically, quite fast, has a lot of big descents, I was pretty much blown back up to Whistler again. Crazy wind. So it was a good workout. And then I hit the trails after for my run. It was great.
Wow. It's interesting as well. I mean, on the sports side of what you do is that you are a road biker and you've done, I saw recently you did 70.3 as well, which is kind of rare, isn't it? For adventure racers, usually aren't also triathletes as well. So I want to talk about that as well. I mean, this race that you did, just having a look at my notes, which one was that? The Oliver 70.3 right?
Actually, the most recent was Victoria. That was just 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
No, it probably wasn't even updated yet. But it is actually rare. I actually just enjoy challenging myself in a variety of different endurance realms, right? And I think there's a lot of transferable skills, and a lot of it really is the mindset. So I'm happy to go out and race a variety of things, see how it goes. Some I completely crash and burn at, I'll say. But, as long as they're endurance-based, I seem to do okay at them. So
right. You say okay, you're being modest here. I mean, I'm just looking at that Oliver 70.3. You were first in your age group, right?
I was.
So it's not like you're just doing well. You're smashing it.
Well, the funny thing about that race was actually I hadn't done a triathlon for a long time, and I had done Ultraman, I think back in 2009. So that just appealed to me. That was, the double the 10K of swimming and 150K bike on day one, and then day two was a 280K bike, and day three was a double marathon, which was right up my alley from adventure racing. Just different. This was on the road, and you got to sleep at night. So anyway, I hadn't done anything for a while, and right before Oliver, a friend was like, "Well, you have to ride a tri bike," and I was like, "I don't know how to ride a tri bike. I didn't do it in Ultraman." So the night before, she lent me her bike. I hadn't even been on it for a ride, and we got it ready to go. And it's my first time on this TT bike. Was like when I jumped on the bike during the race. And then it was just a blast. I mean, it was like learning a new sport all over again. And I only
during
had
the
that
race.
During the race, and I had 90K.
Is that your first time on the TT bars?
It was, yeah.
Oh like in that position, it was your first time. I can't believe you did that during the race. I mean, that's wild.
I know, typical Jen style. Sometimes I laugh at myself.
Do you think that you are somehow wired differently? Because I'm always fascinated by people who get involved in Ultraman or whatever, because I think Ironman, I do Ironman, for example. I know normal, quote unquote, people look at what I do and think it's a bit odd, a bit strange, but then I look at people who do Ultraman and think, wow, that is serious commitment, because it's, you could train for a half Ironman or an Ironman and still have a normal job, right? But to do Ultraman and stuff like that, it seems just, some of these 100-milers, I'm just curious to know what, the internal wiring of somebody like that. Is that something that you feel mentally or physically you're different to the average person, or is it something that started earlier on?
I think a lot of it probably has to do with the mental side. I mean, like I tell my athletes, you can do all the training you want to do or that you can fit in, but you have to want to be out there at the end of the day, and you have to want to push through all the lows and the highs. I mean, racing is like a roller coaster. There's those moments where you're flying on top of the world, feel great, and then next thing you know, you feel terrible. And you have to learn to overcome, push through, and remember that it's always going to get better, or it should get better, or how are you going to feel when you cross that finish line? So that's what goes through my head when I take on these things. And I love to tackle goals that are just outside of my comfort range, that maybe pushes a new skill that I don't have, or is going to make me feel uncomfortable, and to see if I can rise up to the goal that I set.
Yeah. I mean, you're very comfortable with being uncomfortable, if there's such a thing, right?
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Like the example of the first time in a race, you decide, well, the first time you're going to be on aero bars was during a competitive race, right? I mean, I don't know any kind of athlete that would put themselves out there to do that. But are you sort of confident with that? What sort of goes through your head? What sort of processes are you thinking about when you're saying, right, okay, tomorrow I've got a race and it's the first time I'm going to use a TT bike, but I'm okay with that? Or are you sort of living on the edge a little bit and saying, no, I'm pretty damn scared, but I'm happy with that?
I was pretty scared. I didn't know how it would go. But I knew I had the fitness. And then what was so unique is that just every kilometer of that was like, oh, I'm doing this. This is great. And okay, I see why everyone likes it. Like, you go so much faster. And I just had a blast. Like, I smiled that entire race, because it was like, I was like that kid learning a new sport again. And then I just thought, oh, well, if I can get through this bike, then I'm pretty comfortable with the run side of things. So it was good.
Wow. So you're probably the only person smiling during that race, right? I mean, people kind of forget to do this during races. I think people forget that they volunteer themselves to go through these races, right? I know one of the things you talked about as well, Jen, in some of your writings, you talk about suffering, and you said adventure racing is very much about being able to suffer. And you said, I've been blessed with this ability to be uncomfortable day after day. And suffering, is that something that you enjoy? Because it's a subject I think about when I'm out there on, those 180 rides and so on.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually. I have this analogy, and it's called my pain box. And from the minute I started in endurance sport, in particular in adventure racing, I had this picture of that if I could just put all my pain and discomfort into this little black box and just keep stuffing it in the keyhole and not opening that box until the very end, I could get through anything. And that's what I've done. That sort of has been at the forefront for me. for all these races over the last 10 or 12 years. So I take that pain box with me everywhere, and I'm sort of known for this pain box, but it works for me, and I've talked about it in a lot of presentations. Just to have that, that's my vision. That's where my pain goes, and you know what? At the end of the race, you can open it up, and then you can deal with everything. On the downside to that, though, is that pain box works against me, and I have an ability to push myself so far or put up with so much suffering that, it can also harm you. And I've pushed to definitely some limits before that I wish I maybe hadn't. I can sort of override what the body is asking of me.
Right. Okay. Because you're too comfortable with suffering or pain. Is that what you're saying? Your brain sort of telling you there's a reason why you're feeling this. It's because you're right up against the limit here. But you're saying, that's exactly fine, I'm going to ignore what you're telling me. I'm just going to do it anyway.
Right. We have pain receptors for a reason, right? That's to tell the body to stop, slow down, something's not right. And I've overridden that so many times. And while it's allowed me a lot of success in my life, it's hindered me in many ways too. So it's a balance, right?
Right. Well, I want to talk about that when we talk about your entrepreneurial endeavors and some of the projects you're involved in coming up in a minute. So when you talk, I know you're a coach as well, and you coach a lot of athletes, and Victoria Shannon, who was on the show, you coach her as well. You obviously inspire these athletes and you help them with their physical fitness and progress, and on the mental side as well. When you look at things like what you just said, like the pain box, the ability to suffer, and physical fitness, those kind of things, where do those things rank in terms of what a person needs to be successful at this sport? Would you put the suffering at the top or the physical side at the top? Do you ever think about how these compare?
I think at the end of the day, it's 90% mental whenever you take on a challenge. So, the physical, the preparation is something anyone who's committed, we can get you through that, right? We can give all those tools. You can do the day in, the day out, right? But you have to want to be out there. And so a big question, is why? Why have you chosen this goal? What's going to be your drive when things fall apart, when things go wrong? And you sort of try to walk through all that. And a lot of these events maybe that I'm training folks for, I've done similar things like that. And so we talk about that roller coaster and what that's going to be like, and the mentality that they have to have, not to quit. You've got to push through that, and that there's going to be a positive. You're going to be back on top again, and you're just going to keep moving forward. And I tell a lot of my runners, like, when you can't run, like, you do this 100-mile running race, it's probably going to be a run walk. And maybe when you can't run, you can always walk, and you just walk with purpose. Keep moving forward. Just do not stop, and you'll get there. So, there's so many other elements as opposed to just the training. So you got to focus on everything, and including the nutrition. That's such a big part. So try to give the whole picture when you're working with someone.
Yeah. And do you find that the longer the race that you train for, your athletes train for, the more important that why is, that purpose is?
Absolutely. You have to be able to pull from something when things go sideways, and they will go sideways. I mean, very rare does somebody execute the perfect race. I mean, I don't even know if I could say I've ever had the perfect race. I don't even know what that is. But you learn just to keep pushing through the very uncomfortable times, and you keep going, and you keep driving for that finish line.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. You were just back from a race in Chile, 100-miler, but it was a bit of a special race with mixed emotions for you. Can you just talk us a little bit through why you went down there and what the purpose of that race was?
Yeah, Chile was a unique race, and a very different experience from something. So the focus actually from myself this year right now is been getting ready for Ironman Whistler, so challenging myself with something new. However, a year ago in May, I was down in Chile with one of my best friends, dear friends, like family to me, and also a long-time athlete that I've coached. And this woman, her name is Mary Betts, and she is actually an inspiration to just people around the world. She has tackled some of the hardest races you can imagine. 57-year-old woman who, made a life change and has been doing when she was about 40, and then got in just heavy into endurance and these unique challenges. I mean, she's done the Badwater, she's done all of it. Anyway, so we were down there at a race. I'd come with her as her coach and to help pace her and keep her company through this 100-mile there. And 16 kilometers into the event, she had a massive heart attack and left us right there on the race course. So, I spent the last year sort of being in shock, processing this loss. You never have your chance to say goodbye. You would never imagine something like this would happen. And she was just an incredible human being. And I had said when that happened down there that I would return in a year and I will finish that 100-miler for her. So that is what I did, along with, there's 10 of us that went, and 8 of her very special running friends all took on varying distances as well. And her husband came down as well. So it ended up being an amazing trip, a way to honor her. And I think for all of us to try to heal a little bit from the loss.
Wow. What an amazing story. And I imagine doing that race as well, that you must have been going through a whole roller coaster of emotions yourself, right? I mean, even though you're the coach who helps people get through that, you must have been experiencing real highs and lows, because you're not just doing a race like that, which is a roller coaster anyway. You're kind of reliving a lot of those experiences and memories as well.
Yeah, it's really different when you go in without the mindset of I need to perform, I need to win.
Yeah.
My whole goal was I'm going to finish this. And actually the longest run I had done leading up to it was 4 hours. Like I said, my goals this year are different, but I knew I could run my way through it. And I knew doing it for her would give me so much energy and motivation just to keep moving forward. And I don't even know where the hours went out there. Actually, it was a very special race. I never felt like I was in race mode. I felt like I was just on a journey. That's how it felt. And I was joined by, one of my good friends and athletes actually out there who joined me at 60 kilometers, I think. And I'll never forget it. At night, I just switched off my headlamp and we're running underneath the Milky Way. And I mean, there was 100 shooting stars. And I knew I'd made the right decision in coming back there. And just to enjoy this terrain and to see what she didn't get to see and to finish it. And I was just at peace. I was at peace the whole time out there and just got to actually enjoy a 100-miler. So it was unique.
A perfect way to celebrate her life as well, I think. So much better than that's what she loved doing, right? And you were there in the moment, sharing that moment with her, right?
That's exactly it. She had, through the things she had done, she had encouraged so many people to just get out there and try a 5K, try a 50K. Just, try things, do things, because that's what she loved. And she loved running on the trails in any type of weather. And, I look at all of my athletes, and to this day, she followed her program to a T. And if it was snowing and slushy as it gets here, terrible winters, she didn't miss a beat with her training because she loved it. And so if we could all just take a little piece of Mary and just live our life with that passion, I think people will be amazed at where it could take them. Wow.
When things happen like that, does that make you stop and think for a minute or longer than a minute, obviously? But, is it kind of you're sort of you're involved in a sport which pushes you to the extreme, as we talked about, physically you're going over the red line, I suppose. And, and then things like that happen to Mary. Do you sometimes in the back of your mind think, well, I'm also at risk here, or, maybe I should back up a little bit and just maybe live a bit more of a normal life? How does that affect you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, this brought a lot of things into reality, and also made me just relook at my life and, was I doing the things I wanted to do? And I could confirm that, yes, the same passion she has is the same passion that I have for what we're doing and how we spend our days and how we challenge ourselves. So I do feel that, as long as we're living the life that we want to live, then we're on the right track. Yeah. It did bring up a lot of things with just how I coach and whatnot, and just making sure that, we're always taking good care of our health. There are risks to all of these things. And I think a lot of participation maybe in endurance sport, they're just starting to touch the iceberg on maybe some of the the side effects or some of the correlations there might be to what we do. So I just, I really encourage everyone just to check in with yourself, see your doctor, keep on top of how your health is doing, how your heart is doing, get constant blood work done. Just, have that starting point. And then you can make decisions as the years or months go on. Is this, are you staying healthy? Is this serving you? Or maybe do you need to make some changes? So, I'm still, I am such a huge advocator now for more rest. Especially with endurance athletes, like we love to just go all the time. And that importance of rest now and taking time away and taking downtime and just giving your body time to heal, that paired with really good nutrition and sleep and managing your stress. I think they all relate. I think they all do, right?
Oh, so true. So true. But you're so right. It's really difficult for us, isn't it? Because we're hardwired into just going full tilt all the time. And we feel if we're resting, we're kind of missing out on something. We're always trying to push to the limit. And then people telling us now that all the change happens when you're resting, right? That's where all the real progress happens in your body and mentally as well, maybe, right?
Right. It's about quality. So train with quality and then rest. Quality training and rest. And right. I think that's the combination that we need to make sure we're following.
Right. Funny you should say that, though. I mean, I do want to hold you to task because the day after, or the day before, let me get this right, that you left for that race in Chile, you were organizing another race. Is that true? How does it work out? So, I mean, it's like, okay, it's work in progress, right, this rest thing. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, I mean, I am a very busy person, and I think I function better when I am busy. Yeah. So, that's not uncommon for me. But yes, the day before I left for Chile, I put on an annual trail running event here in Squamish called Loop the Lakes. And it's meant to get the community out onto the trails. We offer an 8K, 15K, and 21K. And it's just about a great day at the lake. We put on this amazing kids race as well. We've got community sponsors who get behind us. And it's just about showcasing the playground that we have and giving their little distance for everyone to sort of challenge themselves. And, all funds we make go right back into the trail system here. I mean, it's a pretty phenomenal network here in Squamish. So we just give back to the community. And that's my way of giving back to a sport that's given me so much. Yeah. So I've always sort of want to maintain that. And then the great tie-in to this year's that we actually renamed it the Mary Betts Memorial Loop the Lakes Run. Yeah, in her honor, because she used to come up before she even moved to Squamish. She used to come up every year to help and that, give back and volunteer and check ribbons and do everything. So it's just another way to honor her.
Yeah, that's awesome as well.
Yeah.
A great way to do it as well. It's such a special race. So, and talking about being a race director as well, I mean, I've interviewed race directors on this show, and it seems that it's one of those things that you don't do for the money, but what you talk about, you talked about sort of giving back to the community, and this is a real way to be part of that community, isn't it? And to sort of touch the lives of those athletes, and not really athletes either, if it's community, as on a regular basis. I'm just curious to know why you decide to then do that. And this is the why question as well, isn't it? Why do you do this when you're so busy and you're going to Chile the next day and you're training for an Ironman and you have all these businesses on the go? It seems like an excessive thing to do on top of all of that.
I guess to some people it might seem that way, but it's just the satisfaction I see. I stand at the finish line, and when I watch people come across that line and, they've just had this amazing time on the trails, and I'm like, yes, this is why I pour my heart into this event and why I've kept it going year after year. It's purely to see the look on people's face when they've accomplished something. And I know what running has done for me, and I know how it feels to, set that goal, cross a finish line. You're on this high, right? I mean, I would almost say for me, it was a bit of an addictive high, which is what kind of pushed my career forward more. I love that feeling of, pushing my body, pushing my mind, finishing something, and I was like, oh, what's next? So a lot of times, actually, I find that this race here is a catalyst for people who maybe took on the 8K one year, then they take on the 21K the next year, or maybe they just, oh, well, I want to try 50K, maybe 3 months from now, and then they start training, and it just opens up people's eyes to what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, fantastic. Changing gears a little bit here, Jen, you've got this van, this Sprinter van, and obviously you've got nearly a 4-year-old boy as well, and your partner Norm. And you've got these, I don't know if you've gone on these road trips or these adventures yet, but I know one thing you were talking about is, not living in the van, but driving around in the van and having these other kind of adventures, which is taking the family different places and so on, and maybe going to races. And how's that working out for you?
We have so much fun in the van. It's the Sprinter van, and we converted it. That took some interesting amounts of time to get that sort of to function, because I'm not a handy person at all. I'm like fix things with duct tape sort of person. But we just saw it as a great tool to move the family around and have adventures, and just take us wherever we wanted to go. So we do spend a lot of time as a family, or Kiel and I, that's my son's name. We've done some amazing trips down through the U.S. for either me to race, or to travel, or just to be in the mountains. And so winter or summer, we're in that van a lot, and sort of the joke is we only come home to do laundry. So it's a lot of fun, and it really exposes Kiel to our life, and the passions that we have for the sports that we do.
Right. Okay. One thing I want to ask you, because this is a theme that's come up with other guests, which is, if you choose a lifestyle which isn't normal, quote unquote, I use those words, I know people say, this is a normal life. This is not a normal life. I feel like I haven't chosen a normal life. You've chosen to live life on your terms. You've chosen to live this lifestyle, you, Keel, Norm, in the van, going off and just living the dream, really. I guess some people look at that and think, there's that crazy woman in a van again, right? I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, does that bother you? Do you pay attention to those people, or have you learned to deal with them? How does it work out for you?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be people out there who try to maybe squash your dream, or tell you that this just isn't normal. This isn't how things are done. But Norm and I think otherwise. And there's going to be a time where we do remain home more often, and Kiel starts school, and that's just how it'll be. I mean, we just don't foresee our adventure stopping. And when we had our son, we made that commitment. We said, you know what, there's a lot to be learned from the travels, and from the lifestyle, and from the people that, that come out and do the events that we do. And we want to raise him in these communities. So to us, it is normal. And I think at the end of the day, it's just that we each are living our own life, right? And you live it the way you want to live it. And it's really no one else's choice as to how you spend your days and what you're doing. I mean, what is the normal? And exactly. Go back 50 years and, was that the normal, that, sort of just this picturesque, well, everybody stays home and works this 9 to 5. And I just don't think we're living in that era anymore. And, we love our lifestyle. We absolutely love it.
For sure. And I think for a lot of people, they must be really envious, or not necessarily envious, but they must look at, well, there may be people who envy what you do, because you have the freedom to do what you want, where you want, and with who you want, right?
I think so. But, we've made those choices as well to set our life up to be the way we want it to be. And, it's at a cost for everything. We're not financially driven people, right? We're about adventures and experience. Right. So as long as we're, we can make enough to have the life that we want, we're pretty happy. But we're about experiences. That's what really matters to us.
Right. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You've made a conscious choice. This is how it is, and this is how it isn't going to be, right? And I know you say you're not financially driven, but I suppose the irony is that people who live the normal lifestyle, the career that keep getting the bigger and bigger salary, what do they do when they get that money? Is they go and buy experiences, right?
Right.
Exactly. But you have that on your doorstep every day, right? So it's kind of like, well, I think it's a win-win for you. And talking of that, you are out there with the bears as well. I'm changing subject, but I had to get this in. We were talking off air. You were out cycling today, was it? And you bumped into a bear. It's just sort of a regular occurrence where you live.
It really is. We've got we've got black bears everywhere, and there are some grizzly sightings here in Squamish now too. But yeah, I mean, I love wildlife, and I particularly do love the bear, and I would never not go somewhere because of the wildlife. I think it's just about being educated on how to act in the wilderness and just being aware. And other than that, they're just such beautiful animals to watch. I mean, I stopped on the side of the road here up near the Callahan today just to watch this black bear. I mean, he was just grazing away. I mean, he saw me, and then he just kept doing his thing, and eventually I just biked on, and but it just made my day. It just made me smile. Yeah, it's incredible.
Small moments, huh?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. It tops it all off. You know, here's this amazing bear out there doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing, and we're just sort of coexisting like that. I love it. It's great.
Exactly. He's probably thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're Canadian, so you obviously know better than I do about the subject of bears. What is it you're supposed to do? Is it a black bear you're supposed to play dead or run away from? As a foreigner coming to Canada, I'll get eaten alive, so I have to get it right.
Well, you have to really just read the situation. Honestly, that's what it is. You got to assess, does this bear have cubs? That breeds a whole nother situation. There's just times where, I have to change my route. I'll run into a mom with her cubs and she's defending, and you have to just back away, right? You got to give her space. So that's, it's just really being aware. Yeah, they do say with black bears, fight for your life if one was to attack. But I think you have to sort of know what position did you just get yourself into that this bear is really coming after you. And it's rare, right? And then grizzlies, that's what we deal with a lot more so in the Rocky Mountains or in the Chilcotins, that sort of thing, which are just north of Whistler. And then that would be more, playing dead. And people do survive some bear attacks. But I find it all to be so rare that it's just not a reason to not go doing what you love, right? So, in big wilderness, I carry the bear spray and the bangers, and it's funny because I actually consider myself lucky if we run into a grizzly. Like, I don't mean like super close encounter, but if you get a sighting, you're like, wow, to watch this amazing animal. Like, how lucky am I to see this bear doing its thing? Yeah,
exactly. Wow, what an adventure, just on a daily basis as well. Let's talk about your business as well, Jen, because, let's not forget, I mean, I know you're an athlete and you do all these different things, but you also have a few businesses on the go as well. You're an entrepreneur. You have a cycling studio up there in Squamish. What's the story with that?
Yeah, my cycling studio, we're closed now for the summer. But it was sort of this transition that I made from owning for about 6 years an actual performance strength training boutique type studio. So I was working with a lot of varying athletes here in town, from the skier to the mountain biker to the runner, the climber, etc. And then and we also had a cycling component going on because this is a lot of cyclists living here. And then when I had Kiel, and I just started to realize that I just didn't have the time to always be doing one-to-one and face-to-face in person, operating this big facility with so many different programs and stuff going on. I decided to keep one element of it, and that was the indoor cycling. And so I sort of changed it from being the CompuTrainer to an actual like spin bike type setup. And so I closed down the gym, kept the cycling, moved it to another location, and we just operate now through the winter months. And then come summer, I'm like, see ya, and go ride outside, go do what you just trained to do, and I'll see you guys back here when the rain comes. And we put everyone from the the recreational fitness person to the elite top cyclist coming. And so it is still all performance. It allows me to still interact and have lots of FaceTime, but I've got some great coaches, and it's just way less stress. And I absolutely love going in to teach 1 or 2 classes a week.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, isn't it? You have this very sort of wanderlust lifestyle where you have the van and you're all over, the world, like Chile or we haven't even talked about Australia. Australia examples, these places you're traveling to, but then you have this sort of fixed base which you come back to during the winter months, right? Where,
correct, yeah.
It's back home, isn't it? Is that sort of a conscious thing that you've designed? Are you happy with that balance? Has it sort of worked out like that?
Yeah, no, Yeah, I've never wanted something that ties me down and doesn't allow me to keep traveling the world. So that's been always really important. And and to hire the right people who have, the vision for what I'm doing. Like, all my coaches, they take off and they race and they go do their thing. And I like to provide a situation for them to continue to pursue their passion. So they're not locked into something. So it works. We all cover for each other. When I need to jet off to Australia, or they need to jet to, a 7-day mountain bike race or whatever it is, everyone's covering, because everybody knows sort of, the drill around here. It's that we all want to keep pursuing our own passions.
How important that is. It sounds, I suppose as a listener, they may think that you live the charmed life. You get to do what you want to do. You surround yourself with amazing people. You've designed your life on your terms. You have the van, and you have, a great family, and you've achieved some amazing things in your sport. It sounds like you live the charmed life. It's like, this is a girl who can do no wrong, right? I mean, has it always been easy for you, this choice? I'm just curious to know, is that, were you just, just good at what you did and everything kind of worked out for you?
No, and it's never been easy, I wouldn't say, and it still isn't to this day. However, I do feel fortunate because I wake up every morning and I'm stoked for what I do for work. And how I live my life, in general, right? I love coming in to check in with my athletes and do my coaching. And I always knew that I was going to have a career in something that I was passionate about, because like, how much time do we spend every day actually working, right? It's a lot of our hours. So yeah. I need to be doing something that I love. And that just gets me, just absolutely amped up. I find so much inspiration in my athletes. But then again, too, like I talked about with that pain box, it's allowed me to push through so many things, and I've dealt with my share of health issues along the way, various injuries and things that I just didn't put the brakes on in time. It's so easy to tell athletes and everybody else around, well, okay, this is an issue, we got to fix this, stop, da-da-da. But it was always harder to put those brakes on myself, right?
You're the hardest person to coach yourself, right?
Totally, right? So, I put myself into the ground a couple times, and then you sort of got to claw your way back out and reassess. Norm and I both spend a lot of time goal setting and looking at the things that are going well and where we need to make changes. He's focus, right? So just always trying to be a better version of me.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that goal setting? Because that's kind of an important part of achievement, isn't it? I mean, do you sit down and work these things out? Do you talk about these things? Do you include your son in all of this as well? I mean, how does it work as a family?
Yeah, we do. I think we do a lot of individual goal setting, but then just a lot of discussions. And I always have my year ahead, my goals, maybe the adventures I want to hit. Breaking that down, I go down into month and then sometimes even into week. Like here's the week's goals. Here's the things that need to get done. And so I sort of try to macro and micro it out and look at things from all angles. And and we discuss things. And he's also an athlete and he travels a lot too. So we're constantly trying to find that balance of us getting after the things we want to do and how it fits together as a family. So it's an ongoing, daily challenge, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Jen, I absolutely love what you do, and I love the fact that you've come on today and shared part of that adventure with us. And what we'll do is we'll give the listeners some links as well that they can go and check you out, because there's so many other angles to your story as well, like some of the adventure races and what you've been through and stuff like that. So people will want to find out more about that. Before we get to that, I imagine there's people listening to you talk about your experiences and your story, and they're probably thinking, wow, I just want a piece of that, right? I mean, I don't have to go the full whack. I don't have to do all these kind of adventures and so on, but I just want to take one step in that direction. I may be, you know, staring out of my office window, wishing there were some bears in the parking lot, or, you know, I may be wishing I was up there on the mountain bikes in Squamish, right? Just taking that first step. You know, maybe somebody hasn't yet embarked on that journey, the one that you've been on, right? But how do you get started in that, especially when the people around you are quote unquote normal?
Yeah, I think it starts with having a vision. You know, you just have to want something. You have to be inspired by something, see yourself doing something or somewhere, and just, you know, that phrase, oh, one day I'll get to it, or oh, one day I'll do this or that, you know, it just doesn't sit well with me, because we have one life and it's flying by so fast. So instead of saying one day, how about just say now, or tomorrow I'm going to start. I'm going to just take the first little step to, you know, achieving a goal. And I think as long as you just do that, it's mini steps along the way. It doesn't have to be go from, you know, zero to sky high overnight. You just start that little thing, you know, say it out loud yourself, write it down, put it somewhere where you see it all the time, remind yourself. And, you know, change in life takes time. Embracing new things or, you know, new challenges, it all takes time. So just be patient on that journey, you know. And I think what's just the most important thing is that we're always challenging ourselves. You know, that's where my motto, that's where the name of my company comes from, challenge by choice, right? Just keep always trying to up your game in whatever avenue of your life that is.
Right, right. And how important that is, small steps, right? Because I know you're talking about challenge and upping your game. It doesn't mean, you know, competing with Jen on some of these ultra marathons, you know, from starting point of zero, right? It could be like with Victoria Shannon, just sort of doing your first ever race, and that could be a 5K or a 10K, right? It's just a small step, but that's the momentum. And then you sort of surround yourself with the right people in doing that, right? Because I think you'll lose some people along the way when you start making change, people who may be holding you back, and then replace those with people who are better in your life, right? And that's, you know, it's one great thing about where you are and doing the races and so on. You're surrounded by amazing people who, you know, are constantly pushing each other and lifting each other up rather than sort of pulling each other back down.
That's exactly it, you know, and I think who you surround yourself with makes a huge difference. And, you know, I constantly assess who's in my life, right? Who's in my corner, who's showing me support for my vision. And just like I said, like, you know, how am I helping other people to achieve that as well? But if you've got the right people saying, yeah, and giving you positive affirmation that you can tackle something, it's going to go a long way, right? As opposed to that person who's saying, oh no, that's a stupid idea, or you'll never do that, or well, you don't know how to swim, or, you know, you don't need that. So surround yourself with people who support your journey.
Yeah, exactly. How important that is. And it's the missing part of the puzzle, isn't it, for a lot of people, is that they may be super ambitious and motivated, but, you know, they're kind of surrounded by people who aren't. And that is obviously, you know, that's a key part of it, because if you want to continue and find your why as well, I mean, something you've talked about today, that sort of, that purpose, how important it is to have the right people around you for that as well. So Jen, hey, we haven't talked about any of your major races recently, but as I said, we'll point people in the direction of your site so people can find out those. We've got, I mean, just to give people a whiff of what's on offer, you've got like the Adventure Racing World Champ, 600 kilometers around Australia, Arctic to Atacama,
yeah.
Right. I mean, just to put on that on its own is, you know, it conjures up images of adventure and challenge. So that was 100. No, what was that? That was a 1200K race. And anyway, people can go and find out. But hey, I know you talked about goals. What is coming up for you? What is on your horizon? I don't imagine, you know, you've set yourself something that's easily achievable. So share with us. What's going on in the world of Jen? What's next?
Oh, geez. So coming up, I guess I'm about 5 or 6 weeks out here from Ironman Whistler, which will be my first Ironman, true Ironman race. So really excited for that. I'm trying to be, I've had a few things sort of come up along the way, but I'm trying to be quite dedicated now to this final preparation for that. And then actually the day after that, I leave for guiding in the mountains for 2 weeks. So I will be,
Day after?
The day, yeah, like 4 a.m. the day after. But I'm so excited for that too. I mean, that's my happy place. So I'll be at various locations in BC guiding. And then after that, actually, my body is begging me for a bit of a break. So I am going to switch gears and probably just spend the fall or late summer and fall just playing and, catching up with friends and just being on my mountain bike and just taking a little bit of personal downtime. My schedule has been so loaded. Yeah. And after that, it's probably going to just be some personal adventure. There's some big bucket list items I have, and we'll sort of see how the rest of the year takes me. But I do know that I am in need of a little bit of rest and relaxation. So for once in my life, I am taking my own advice and clearing my schedule to make that happen.
I hope so. I've got a sneaky suspicion, though, that sometime around October, I'll find out that you're heading to Kona.
Well, it's funny because opportunities just sometimes pop up and present themselves to me. And I have a hard time saying no. I'm like, that sounds like a blast. Why not, So who knows, right? Yeah, I try to be open to things.
Have you mastered the aero bars for Whistler? I hope you've sort of, you're not sort of trying out something new on that.
I have. I've been spending so much time. It's actually really funny because I have myself a top triathlon coach, Rebecca Keat, guiding me through this process because I want to learn as much as I can. So, coaches get coaches, and I think it's a great way to learn. So, yes, she has made me be in a TT position, and actually I'm really comfortable in it now. I'm enjoying it. Other than today, I thought I was going to get blown right off my bike with these winds. That was terrifying. No, but it's a blast. It's so much fun, right, to learn a new sport. So I'm having a good time with it.
Amazing. And we could follow you as well, maybe on the Ironman tracker on the website, hopefully.
Hopefully. Let's hope... let's hope everything comes together for a good day out there, and that's all I can ask of myself is just to be the best that I can be on that day, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Watch out for her. She'll be the one smiling on the course as she flies by. It's that crazy woman again.
Once I get out of the swim.
Once you get out of the swim, you're in a happy place there. Hey, let's give the listeners some links where they can go and find out a bit more about you, Jen, because there's so much going on in your world, and I imagine by the time this goes out as well, there's maybe something new going on in your world. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, my main website is jensegger.com or over at my coaching website, challengebychoice.ca, and on all the social media platforms as well, just as Jen Segger. I have an athlete page on Facebook as well as on Instagram. So I love hearing from people. I love hearing people who are just getting out there and tackling something for the first time. So please, drop me an email. Let me know. I find huge inspiration in